唐明皇好道奇极人，武会非从禅斗艺法 from Chuke Pai'an Jingqi.
Hello and welcome. So what does that beautiful line of characters actually mean? Well, it translates to something like this. Emperor Ming of Tang, who loved the Wei, gathered some truly extraordinary men, and his consort, Wu Hui, who was a devotee of Chan Buddhism, well, she set them up for a contest of strange and supernatural arts. Right away, you see the two main players at the heart of our story, Emperor Xuanzong, a ruler completely fascinated by the mystical, and his favorite consort, Wu Hui.
Now, where does this story come from? It's from a 17th century collection, and I just love the title. It's called To Strike the Table in Amazement. Isn't that great? It's a book that looks way, way back, hundreds of years to the golden age of the Tang Dynasty. And this was a time of, incredible brilliance and wealth, but also a time filled with this deep, burning curiosity, a real fascination with the mysteries just beyond the edges of our world.
All right, let's journey back in time together. I want you to picture the court of Emperor Xuanzong. This was the glittering center of the world at that time, a place of breathtaking poetry, beautiful music, and just unimaginable power. But it was something more, too. It was a place where the line between our world and the world of the divine felt unusually thin.
Before things really get going, a kind of shadow falls over the story. There was this Daoist master who could see that things were about to take a dark turn for the empire. And before he just vanished into thin air, he left this very cryptic poem on his wall. If you meet the ghost beneath the mountain, a silk sash will be tied on Huan. Of course, at the time, nobody had any idea what it meant. It was a prophecy, really, hidden in plain sight, a little whisper that destiny was already moving things around, even in a court as glorious as this.
And the emperor himself? He was believed to be an immortal soul reborn into a human body. So for him, this fascination with Taoism wasn't just some passing interest or a hobby. No, it was core to who he was. And because the emperor was so deeply invested, his court became like this powerful magnet, just pulling in masters of all sorts of arcane and esoteric arts from all over the land. They all came hoping to find a powerful patron in the Son of Heaven.
So you had all these people flocking to the court. But among the many who answered the emperor's call, there were 3 Daoist masters who really stood out. And I want to be clear here, we're not talking about court magicians doing a few clever sleight of hand tricks. No, these were individuals who seemed to, they seemed to play by a completely different set of rules, a different set of natural laws.
First up, we have Master Zhang Guolao. Now, if you saw him, you'd probably just see a frail old man, but he was actually an ancient immortal who'd been around for centuries. His ride? A magical white donkey that could cover thousands of miles in a single day. And the best part is, when he got to where he was going, he'd just fold the donkey up like a piece of paper and tuck it right into his sleeve. Just to give you an idea of his power, he once let the emperor knock out all of his teeth, only to just regrow a perfect new set right there on the spot, just to make a point,
Next, there was Master Ye Fashan. He was a true master of travel and illusion. The stories about him are just amazing. One evening, the emperor is just casually saying how he wishes he could see the Lantern Festival in some far-off province. And Ye Fashan just says, "All right, let's go." The emperor closes his eyes, feels like he's being lifted by a cloud, and literally moments later, he opens them and he's standing right there, in the middle of the festival. And if that's not enough, on another night, the master took him on an even bigger trip, all the way to the glowing, otherworldly palace on the moon.
And finally, we have Luo Gongyuan. Now this is interesting, because he looked like a young boy, but his power might have been the deepest of them all. When he first showed up, the other masters wanted to test him, right? So each of them grabbed a handful of chess pieces and hid them in their closed fists. They asked him, "So, what are we holding?" And Lu, he just smiles and says, "Your hands are empty." And sure enough, when they opened them, they were. Where were the pieces? They were all in his hand.
So you have these incredible Taoist masters at court. But, a situation like that, it's not gonna go unchallenged. The emperor's favorite consort, Wu Weifei, was a very devout Buddhist, and she wasn't just gonna sit by. So she brought her own champion to court. And just like that, the stage was set for a kind of spiritual duel, a contest that was going to echo through the palace.
So here we go. The stage is set. In one corner, you've got the emperor's Taoist masters. And in the other, this really formidable foreign monk named Vajra, a master of esoteric Buddhist arts. And you have to understand, this was way more than just a bit of court entertainment. It was this fascinating clash, a real glimpse into the vibrant and very competitive spiritual world of the Tang Dynasty. You had a native mystical tradition going head-to-head with a powerful faith that had come from far away.
All right, challenge number 1. The emperor, who's just eager to see what these guys can do, sets it up. He turns to the Buddhist master Vajra and asks him, "Can you use one of your spells to, I don't know, trap Master Ye Fashan inside that little water bottle?" The monk says yes, of course. He places the bottle on the ground and he begins to chant.
And as he's chanting, you can see Master Yi's body start to shrink. It gets smaller and smaller, getting pulled closer to the bottle until, poof, he's gone. He's inside. Now the emperor starts to get a little worried. But just as he's about to step in, a court official announces that Master Yi has arrived. And in strolls the master, completely unfazed. He explains that a prince had just invited him to a banquet, and well, he just used the Buddhist spell as a handy shortcut to get there without having to make excuses. I mean, what an effortless, almost cheeky way to show your power.
Okay, so next up is Luo Gongyuan. This time, the Buddhist master sets the challenge. He says he's going to hide his sacred robe, and he dares Luo to try and get it. And he goes all out. He puts the robe in a box, locks it, puts that box inside another, locks it, and so on until it's buried in this nest of locked chests. Then he puts the whole thing on a consecrated altar and surrounds it with these conjured guardian deities. And while all this incredibly elaborate security is being set up, Luo Gongyuan just sits there, quietly, watching it all with this little calm smile on his face.
After a little while, Lu suggests, why don't we check the chests? So they do. Every single seal is perfectly intact. Every lock is untouched. But when they open that final, innermost box, it's empty. The robe is just gone. The emperor asks, where is it? And Lu just calmly says it's back in his personal rooms. Sure enough, a servant goes and finds it there, completely untouched. So how did he get past all those divine guardians? Lu's explanation was just beautifully simple. He said, oh, those were just lesser gods. I sent a celestial maiden from a much higher heaven. To her, they were completely invisible.
So after that, there was really no question. Luo Gongyuan's power was on another level, and he became a huge favorite of the emperor. But, and this is where the story takes a turn, that favor, it soured. The emperor's wonder, his almost childlike curiosity about magic, it twisted into something else, a ruler's demand for power. And that demand, it was going to lead to a terrible, terrible mistake.
So what happened? The emperor demanded that Luo Gongyuan teach him how to become invisible. And Luo, very calmly, refused. He told the emperor that a ruler's job is to be seen, to be out in the open, governing with justice. He said a trick like invisibility, that was beneath the Son of Heaven. It was for lesser men. Well, the emperor was a man who was not used to being told no, and he just flew into this sudden, violent rage. And in that moment of fury, he ordered that the master be executed.
And so it happened. Luo Gongyuan was taken out to the public market square and beheaded. But that's not the end of the story. Because months later, an official who's traveling from the western province of Shu, he's completely stunned when he meets Luo on the road, just riding his donkey, as if nothing had ever happened. Luo just calmly gives the official a letter and a little packet of herbs to take back to the emperor, along with a very simple message.
The message was simple. Tell the emperor that the herb is called Shu-Dang-Gui. Now, on the surface, that's just the name of a medicinal root, Sichuan angelica. But the magic is in the characters themselves. They can also be read as a sentence, from Shu, one must return. At the time, the emperor had no idea what it meant. It was just another mystery. But years later, a huge rebellion broke out, and it forced him to flee the capital. And where did he take refuge? In that very same province of Shu. And it was only then that he finally understood. It was Luo Xiang's last prophecy, and a promise that even though he was in this terrible exile, one day he would return home.
And that's really where the legends of this magical court start to wind down. Think about it. The emperor had surrounded himself with men who could literally bend the laws of reality, who could take him to the moon, who could apparently even cheat death. But what did all of that incredible power really accomplish in the end?
The author of this story, writing centuries later, leaves us with a really poignant thought. He writes, "The ancient kings loved the way, but did they not know that the true way is found in simple good governance? Though magic has endless illusions, it could not save the imperial house from its ultimate doom."
You know, maybe the emperor's obsession with the supernatural was really just a way to distract himself from the very real problems that were growing in his empire. All the wondrous powers of the immortals, they couldn't stop a rebellion that was born from very human, very earthly problems. And so the story kind of leaves us with this quiet question to think about.
what is the greater magic, really? Is it the power to command dragons and escape death? Or is it the wisdom to simply rule oneself with justice and care? And that might be a power that even the immortals can't give you.